In this episode of Nerdy Romantics podcast, we will continue our discussion of Children of Blood and Bone, a book by Tomi Adeyemi, and we are going to give this one a Goodreads rating. So stay tuned for that discussion. Remember, as with the last episode, this one will also have spoilers, so spoiler alert. If you have read this book or want to even continue with the discussion, then stay tuned. And you get that, and you very much get that feeling at the end of this book. It's like, because you're wondering near the end of the book when you see people actually using magic and actually understanding something about magic and possibly having it, you wonder, just like Zelly wonders, who should get magic? Because she even, kind of says this. And am I supposed to be the one to tell people you should have magic and you shouldn't? So that's another thing that she goes through in the whole I don't want to lead, because I don't want to tell people you should not have magic. I don't want to take away somebody's magic, or I don't want to, have
Person
to.
to choose to give people magic or something like that, who picks and
Exactly.
chooses. And then, as of the course of the book, you see that, especially the group that was oppressed, the diviners, and how angry, like their
Yeah.
families were slaughtered, and now if you get magic back, how are we going to do this? I mean,
Right.
that's one of the things I think you see later on, but also through the themes of the book is like an oppressed people, once they get their power back, how are they going to react to the people who oppress them?
Right.
And
And that's where for me it really struck something in how similar it this whole feeling is to American society and what happened after the Civil War. When after the Civil War, there was a period of, begins with an R, but a period right after the Civil War where black people were creating cities, black people were sitting on city councils, black people had political
governor,
offices.
they senator was the first during that time during Reconstruction, during that right after, and then
Yes. And then after that, the Ku Klux Klan came in and others and
yeah,
started just erasing everything that happened. And because we didn't live during that time, we just know it from history, or we learned it from from trying to get little bits and pieces of true history. We learned it. But because we didn't live through that time, we didn't have that feeling of the fear that these people were having, and the non-fear, and the the basic, like, why are you even having this fear?
hmm
We don't want to harm you. Why
yeah,
are you fearing this? That whole, all the emotional and the things that they did because of fear and because of consequences that they feared would happen, right? And
yeah. But oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
Well, I mean, to me, I think what we're also thinking about stuff that's going on right now in another
Yes.
part of the country, part of the world,
Yes.
about people that were oppressed, who went through attempted genocide, and then
Yep.
once they have power in place, what they may be doing to someone else
Yep.
now that they have power. And I'm not going to go into details on anything on that, but I think that kind of, in a way, kind of not relates to this book, but about the fear of, I guess, those nobles thinking we did all this to them. Now that they have power, what are we going to do? What are they going to do to us?
Right. Exactly.
Which is not, I mean, which is both, during Reconstruction and what's going on now. That's
What's
kind of
going on now?
similarities there, but it's that fear and that fear of it, and by it's kind of like when we talk about prophecy and stuff like that. When we have the who was it? And I'm gonna go to Greek folklore or whatever, Greek mythology, where he was told that his son will kill him. Who was that? Perseus. His father was told that his son will end up killing him, so he casts out his son, but ends up basically fulfilling prophecy by sending his son out to be raised by others, and then
Yes.
he comes back and kills him.
Kills
And I
him.
think
Yes.
kills him anyway. And so I think their
Is that
thing is
Hades?
no, it wasn't Hades. It's because the whole Andromeda.
Oh,
No,
now you're gonna make me look.
it's
You're gonna make me look
I
for it.
remember because it's the
Somebody put it in the comments below if you are watching or listening to this. There's a comment
Oedipus. It's
section.
Oedipus. Oedipus complex.
Oedipus. Oh
Oedipus.
yes,
Yes.
yes,
Because he ends up
yes.
marrying his mother, which is totally different. But the reason is
Right.
he because he never knew that that was his father and mother, because his father was told that
Send
his
him
son
away.
would kill
Yes.
him, and so instead of his mother having him killed, whatever, he's taken away.
Yeah.
And so fulfilling
Oedipus
the
Rex.
prophecy just because he instead of living with his son, being so fearful that that would happen. And I
Right.
think the same thing is it kind of with them. They were thinking that the diviners were going to take everything from them, so we're going to take everything from them first.
First. Yeah.
And now we're now in this part where once they get their power back, will they destroy them?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And so, you see that fear happen, and that you see that happen throughout the book. The reader sees that because it's already happened, right? This has already happened. That's the reason why magic is gone. And so you see that evolve throughout the book as a reader, and you wonder, oh, what's gonna really happen here? You kind of have that feeling like what's gonna happen? How is this gonna play out? And even though it's happened in history, it's happening right now. The fear is very, and too, with that fear is very irrational. It's not rooted in it's and it never seems to be rooted in actual circumstance, right?
Mhm.
It's never rooted in actual circumstances. Very much an irrational fear to retaliate against the people you have oppressed. And it's basically in your mind, right? As the oppressor, it's in your mind. You're the one that's going to the worst case scenario. But most people they don't do the worst case scenario, right? It almost never happens. It actually has never really happened. Usually, what happens is something like an Oedipus kind of thing where the oppressor ends up screwing themselves over because of their irrational fear. That's what always happens. That's unfortunately, I feel like that's what's going to happen right
Mm.
now in our situation right now, because things are happening where, me as a Black woman, I'm like, I'm not even getting in the middle of this. But you're acting off of some kind of fear and some kind of like, I'm losing my privilege or something is happening here where, the people that you're oppressing or the people that you're afraid of, you know, they're not feeling this way, right? And in other places in the world is, this is happening too, right, at this point. So this is not a political show, but this very much is a political book, and even more so than what I thought when I first started reading it, because when you read the author's note speaks of where she was writing this, which is why I said 2018, but I think it's 2020 now that I am saying this. I thought it was 2018. I'm going to look at the copyright page, and so I can make sure. But the author's note, it is 2018. But for some reason, and stuff was happening in 2018, but for some reason I was thinking specifically George Floyd. But George Floyd is not the only catalyst of this. In her author's note, Tomi Adeyemi talks about police brutality. And this is very much the inspiration, the ones that we've been hearing in the news and the ones that we haven't been hearing in the news. But she mentions some of the names that we have heard in the news. And this is very much the inspiration or whatever mindset she was in when she wrote this. And the author's note was at the end of my copy, but when I read that, I felt, okay, yeah, I understand where a lot of this is coming from. I understand why the nobles are the way they are. And two, this is all in one kind of cultural area, but these people have diverse backgrounds and everything, but they're all a part of Orisha, right? Culturally, they all came up together, right? This is something that's happening all together versus, in American society where we have people coming from different cultural perspectives, right? Um so culturally, all of the characters here at least kind of know culturally what other characters, like, they may not know everything about how they came up or everything like that, but they're living in a way that they can access each other's cultural whatevers, right?
In some ways, it kind of reminds me. I know we said racism, but also kind of reminds me a little bit of if you read the book, the Black Elite,
Mhm.
or you're watching the Gilded Age, and you're seeing the have and the have-nots, that kind of a thing, where
Yes.
groups, and it was, and with that is all of them are were black, but you had those like, well, I didn't descend from slaves, we're lighter skinned here, and versus, have you been watching The Gilded Age? I'm not trying to talk about another show or anything, but
No, yeah, and I've watched some of it, but I haven't watched this season. But I've been kind of looking at the online stuff of this season, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I need to go back and watch
yeah,
this
you do, because
season.
it has a lot more into it
It's a
about Peggy
lot
and her
more.
life,
Yeah.
and so you kind of see where that whole thing about the Black Elite, which if you read also the book about the Black Elite, which is not fictional but actually real, talking about our Black Elite and about how we had the whole paper bag societies and all that kind of stuff. This kind of reminds me of that in the sense that everybody is from the same Orisha, they're the same kind of environment,
Right.
but you have the brown paper bag society, and then you have the others, and that kind of
Right.
thing. I think that kind of reminds me a little of that kind of. It's a crossover of two of different things when you read the book. Is
Yeah.
that whole thing about, even though they may have the same country, they're not coming from different parts, like the melting pot of America, same country, but we have this group over here who's nobility, and they tend to be a little bit lighter, or at least they think that lighter skin is a little bit more superior than the others. And
Hmm.
then the others, they have the different groups. You have the people, you're a seaside person, you're from the coast versus you're from here. And then later on, you'll see when they actually come back with their gifts are actually different, which makes them part of different groups in the whole thing about the diviner. It's about which group you're in for diviner
Right.
because of your gifts. So
Right.
a lot of separation, but at the same time, they're all living within the same country, or
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It also makes me think about there was this show, it only lasted for a season, but it was also from a book, and it was talking about kind of the black elite. And were they at Martha's Vineyard? Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of that show. I cannot remember the name of the show, but it was from a book, and it only lasted one season, but it was basically kind of like about the black elite, and how they move through society and who they should hang out with and who they shouldn't hang out with. Something alike. Our Kind of People or something
That
something.
was what I was thinking. I said the Black Elite, but I read Our Kind of People and the Black Elite, so I got both. I'm like looking over here, like, where is that book?
Yeah.
Oh, looking
It's like I know
stuff.
it's there somewhere. Yeah. And Isabel Wilkerson's book Cast, that although that's nonfiction, more memoir, it also gives you kind of a similar kind of feel. So it's very much foundation is African folklore, but on top of it, I feel the diaspora, right? I feel the African American experience is influenced in this book, which also, is like bringing me in even more. And the fact that it, it feels very contemporary, even though we're not even sure how contemporary it is actually. But you know how, like, a lot of fantasy books, especially European fantasy books, they're always centered in some kind of medieval place, or it's not always contemporary, but this feels, whether it is or not, it feels very contemporary. And it's probably because we are having these kind of.
I think it's because the things that we're talking about and
Yeah.
discussing, that kind of thing. Because I mean, 'cause if you think about, like, for whatever reason, I'm thinking about Star Wars and how he's
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere, but
Right.
it's advanced technology. It's just, he has two droids and he's just walking there. I mean, it's not like it's in your face about where, like, there are people going into space there, but it doesn't really
Right.
feel like a space. I mean, it is a space drama, but it doesn't really feel
Right.
like
It
it.
doesn't
And
feel
so
like it.
you're not really
Exactly.
sure until, like, you listen to it as you go on. You realize, like, it's not really. It's not like some sort of steampunk version of anything,
Right.
but it also doesn't feel primitive. But I think part of the reason is because of who's writing it.
Yes.
When a
Very
lot of
much
people do
so.
stuff like in this African folklore and all that, they make it sound like they're in the dust or dirt. I mean, you know how they make it
Right.
sound like they're so primitive. And I
Right.
guess
Exactly.
she doesn't do that. And it's like, well, when I went to India, people were like, "Oh, you're gonna see, somebody, doing on the flute and snakes or something like that." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Because they have this thought of what
It's
it
a
was.
it's a stereotype, right? And it's because we only see that one image, right? And it's so interesting because I said this earlier and we were talking about Legos. When people say Africa, they think, people, out in either the jungle or the desert, right?
Hmm.
It's got to be one of the
Mud
two.
hut,
Right, some kind of
hut.
mud hut, and they have on very little clothing, and it's like, have you been to Nigeria? I mean, have you been to Lagos? This is like a major city, that rivals something like a New York, right? Rivals something like, in Atlanta. It's major city here, and that's not the only one. And I'm just thinking about Lagos because there is a city in this book
All
called
Legos.
Legos. And immediately that's what I thought of. I thought of city. And I think too, it opens people's eyes to the fact that Africa is a continent, everybody, with a bunch of different countries inside of it.
Hmm.
And even those countries have cities and towns. So there are city people here, and the nobles are there. There are townspeople here. There are, oh, when they went to the town with where they went to the town where they had the competitions, we'll say that. I'm trying not to spoil it. That was very much an urban kind of feel. It was very much like going to, any kind of sports game, like an NFL game or NBA game. It felt like, being in that kind of atmosphere. And then they're in very spiritual places, and then they're in the desert, and then they're on an island. I mean, these very different settings meeting very different people.
It kind of reminds me, like, of Wakanda, the early years, ancient Wakanda, you
Right.
know, not like it is now, like it's a real country, like
Right.
not modern day Wakanda, but
It is in
early
our
Wakanda,
minds.
you know, you
Right,
know,
early Wakanda,
Wakanda.
yes. But yes, very much so. Like when we first saw, Ryan Coogler et al.'s vision of Wakanda, you see farms and ranches, and you see a very industrialized city at the same time. And then you go up into the mountains and you see, mountain folks. So and in each place you're seeing very different people, right? And so even if these people just all look like black folks to you, these are very different people. So this is also what I love about this book. In this one book, we get so many different representations. And just like what you're saying about we get round characters, I love the fact that we get a bunch of round characters with all of these representations. All these representations of folks are not just caricatures. In fact, most of them aren't caricatures. The only ones that are really caricatures are ones that we see in the very end. And because this goes on in a series, I'm kind of wondering where some of them, like, do we see some of them crop up later on, But that's what I love about this book is, and I keep saying this on a lot of the episodes, and I'm going to keep saying it. Black people are not a monolith, right? And African people are not a monolith. They're not all primitive people with a little bit of clothes on, speaking a language that you don't know anything about, right?
Yeah.
The fact that we see in just this one book the myriad of people, the myriad of Black folks is very heartening to me. I love it. I love seeing this. And the fact that they now are making this into a movie, it's like, oh, I can't wait.
I know they were making two movies, but I have not looked into like who's going to be the cast. I haven't tried to look in any of that
Yeah.
yet to see anything, but hopefully they do it justice for the whole,
Yeah.
not just in characters, but in just the locale and how it's going to look. I mean, hopefully it matches what I see, but I mean, hopefully they do it better too. They might do it better in their representation of everything.
I totally agree. I hope, especially with the settings, which we kind of briefly talked about, but I hope they really do it up with the settings
And I mean,
because
I know
I see it in my mind.
it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be like, oh my God.
Yes.
But and also, like, I'm kind of worried about how they're going to do, what was it, her Lion Air, because
Yeah.
I could not really think of a great how to do that and make it.
Yeah.
Because every
How do
time I
you
think of it, I think of Battle Cat from
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was like, oh, I'm not sure how you're gonna pull that one off. How you gonna pull that off?
And when they said Lion Air, and of course, I'm thinking because I recently saw that they actually are going to do a Thundercats movie. I keep thinking Lioness, the Thundercats. I don't know why I keep thinking that, but that's not what the Lion Air is. But it's like there's horns involved, there's all this other stuff going on, and yeah, I'm wondering how they're going to do that. And because they've named this Lion Air's name is Nala, and or at least I think that's how we say that, Nala. And so even the Lion Air has a personality.
Hmm.
So I'm like, how are they going to do that in the movie? But I can't wait. But
Yeah.
yeah, the cast of characters. I just saw the actors when I first saw the poster with it, but now that I'm looking them up, they actually have character names going with them, and of course, Viola Davis as Mama Akbar. Yes,
Oh, okay.
I
See, I haven't seen any, so like you
I
said,
haven't.
phase
I
one.
just
I don't
Yeah.
even know. Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw the poster with all of their faces on it, but I don't know who was playing what, and I just looked it up today for this podcast. Viola Davis as Mama Akbar, yes.
Okay.
I can see that happening. Amandla Stenberg, she as Princess Amari, she was
Okay.
Rue in
Yeah,
the
she was.
Hunger
She said
Games.
that ruined. She was a lighter complexion, so I was like, okay, not too light for the, but I think I'll match up. I mean,
Right.
yeah.
Right, exactly. Um, I like the fact they've got Idris Elba. He is playing Lacan, who's the Centauro that they meet in Chernobyl, the temple. That makes sense. This is an interesting pairing. So they've got Chitwell Ejiofor as King Saran.
Okay, and I'm trying to look at it myself.
Yeah, while you're doing that, yes.
Yeah.
So I'll say this for the podcast. They've got Chitwell Ejiofor playing King Saran, and they've got Regina King playing Queen Nahandna, which is Princess Amari's mama. So that's interesting to have them do that. And Cynthia Erivo, who we know from Wicked, is playing Admiral Kaea. I believe that's how you pronounce that. Damson Idris is playing Prince Anon.
Okay.
I'm not.
Have you
I'm.
seen him play anything like you saw him in?
Isn't he on the Shy? Is he on the Shy?
No, he's
No.
on. I have it in my head. It's on Hulu. It's about the crack cocaine
Oh, Snowfall. He's
snowfall.
the Snowfall dude. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. 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 And I like him on that. And I think, okay, so yes, I think it's more star power there. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play out. That's going to be interesting.
Well, man, seen him play. I played in something else. I mean, even in Snowfall, 'cause when you see him in real life, not real life, but like you not gonna know him or anything. But you know, we see him
Yeah.
on the
Not playing a character. Yeah.
and then see him playing that character, especially with his accent. He has the English accent, and he plays
Yeah.
that character. It's like, oh, I didn't even realize he did it so well. And then he was on an interview where someone asked him about was they were telling him about how someone asked Denzel Washington about him. Denzel was like, "Who is that?" And he did a Denzel impersonation that was so good. I was like, "Okay,"
Wow.
he did like, he wasn't offended that Denzel didn't know him at the time, but it was like he did his impersonation of Denzel that was just right on point. It was really good.
Oh my gosh. I've got to find that. And then another main, well, obviously Zelly. Zelly is played by Uso Mabedu. And I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name. And Zane is played by Tosin Cole. Tosin Cole is Mike on, gosh, what is the show? The show is on Netflix, Supercell.
Oh, Supercell, for real. What
Yes.
character he's playing? Which character?
He's playing Zane, his brother.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I was like, they look very familiar, but yes, Supercell.
Hmm.
So I'm like, this is a serious lineup right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see them playing these characters. I can see it. I can see it. It's I'm just really excited. I'm excited to see what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And like you, I'm also very excited to see the settings, the
Yeah,
scenes.
don't.
I hope they do those well
What
because
they do?
that's part of the beauty of the book to me.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully they'll do it well. Sometimes on certain books like of this magnitude,
Yes, it's a
I'm not
lot.
sure. It's a lot, and sometimes I'm fearful like you're not going to give them, 3 movies to get a ring to a thing. You're not going to
Right,
give them that. So
right.
sometimes I like if they can't make it as a movie. Certain things I would have preferred as a TV series on a
Exactly.
budget kind of a thing, but we're probably never going to get something like that. But the movie, I just hope it. I just hope it. I'm not sure how they're gonna do it. So I mean, I hope it's not like a World War Z thing. I like that book, but that movie was
Yeah,
awful.
that's what a lot
So
of people have said.
yeah.
But I agree with you there. I believe that the story and how they could play it out works better to me as a TV series if they had an unlimited budget.
And they
But
had that.
yeah,
Same thing with World War
but
Z.
the
They did it
grandeur of some of this lends itself to a
in
movie.
the movie. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, we've talked a lot about a lot of stuff going on here, and we've talked a long time. I do briefly want to mention that this is definitely fantasy, but there is a romance element in here. And I think the romance element is really cute.
It's definitely YA at this
But
at
it's
this point.
definitely YA, and that's pretty much all I'm gonna mention of it. Because so many other things here are working towards the wonderfulness of this. The only other thing that I will also mention is with this experience is that at first I got this from the library, and I actually asked for the audiobook, I asked for the ebook, I asked for whatever I could get, right? So the first thing that I got was the audiobook. And when I got the audiobook, and the narrator is Bonnie Turpin, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. It's spelled Bahni, so I hope that it's Bonnie. But when I first got the audiobook, in the beginning of the audiobook, which is at the end of some of the ebooks, at the beginning of the audiobook, there is a list of all the Magi clans, and I believe there are 11 clans or 12 clans, but there are a list of all the clans. There are a list of the gods that go with the clans, and then there are powers, like what the clan's magic power is. And as she was reading that, and even though I did know it was African folklore, as she was reading it, I said, I need to have a visual to see the words. And so then I got the ebook, but the narrator and this audiobook is amazing. I really liked it. What was your experience? Did you do ebook, audiobook? How do you
I
remember?
do audiobooks. I still, because I was trying to listen to it earlier to refresh my memory on it.
Mhm.
But I did an audible on the same this same narrator that you're talking about. So the only thing I don't care much for Audible is for things like that. Because when
Yeah.
I was listening to it over, I'm driving, so I'm listening to it, and I was like,
Yeah.
dude, I wish I could go back. Just tell it, hey, read me the beginning of it for those groups of people, because that whole thing when they talk about the different groups of diviners and everything like that, you have all
Mhm.
that, and then I'm trying to remember from the beginning of the book who was what, that kind of thing, and that's the only
Right.
problem with any audio books. They have something like that. It is really hard for you to kind of, you can't thumb back to it to say, oh, that's what we were talking about. Now they were
Right.
referencing this, 150 pages later. It's like I did,
Right. I
that
don't
kind of thing.
remember. Yeah. And then too, because it's not in a language that is recognizable just by hearing, to me, I want to see it as well. I mean, I know what Yemiya looks like, but I don't hear it every day. So it's like, okay, what? And the Oyu clan and all this other kind of stuff. It's like, I don't hear these words every day, and I would like to actually see the words. And even with some of the names of the cities as well,
Hmm.
you know. And the other thing that you miss, of course, with the audiobook is you miss
The
the
map.
the
Oh,
map. Yeah. And it's like when you see the map, you kind of want to go back to the map as they're going through different places. You want to go back to the map. But anyway, like I said, we've talked a lot about this. And so let's finally give this one a Goodreads rating. And to remind us, as well as to remind our audience of the Goodreads rating, one is we did not like it, 2 stars, it was okay. 3 stars, we liked it. 4 stars, we really liked it. And 5 stars, it was amazing. So, Stacy, what would you give Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi?
well, I think if you're looking for a book that has a hero who doesn't want to be a hero, so you have that full-fledged characters, an adventure story, a girl finding her place in the world. If you want all that in one book, this is the book to get.
Yes.
And I would give it 5 stars because I mean it's been a long time, not a long time, but it's been like I said, like it could have been like 20, so it might be like 4 or 5 years since I've read this book. But the fact that I can remember so much of it,
Yeah.
and from that indicates how it stuck with me for such a long
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
And to me, that's one of the good things about a good book is that if you even long after you read it, the themes of it, the character, if they stay with you for such a long time, that to me indicates it's a good book.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I would say 5 stars.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm going to agree with you on all those points. I'm giving it 5 stars as well. I was also say personally, my experience with it and why I'm giving it 5 stars is that I was so engrossed in this book that I'm kind of glad that my employment state is what it is because I just kept turning pages and kept turning pages. And it was 2 o'clock in the morning and I kept turning pages. I had to force myself to put this book down once I got into this book. And for it to be a YA book, for me as a person who has not been YA in some time, to feel the things that I felt from this book, it's definitely 5 stars. And immediately after I ended it, I wanted to pick up the next book. The only reason, as I said, that I didn't pick it up is because I didn't want to confuse the books as we were talking about them on the podcast. But now that we've talked about them, I will be getting the next book.
Yeah, it was. I really enjoyed this read. I mean, and then trying to listen to it again. I've been just busy this week. I was gonna listen to it again, but I just, as a person who like we've tried to read YA since then, and I
Yeah.
have not been able to get into any of the in it before. But this one actually made me think that I could get into other YA, and then I realized
Yes.
no, the book was good, but I don't. That book was good. I still can't get into YA. I've just never found another book that really made me want to get into YA as this was. And
Right.
it was a very good read. I truly enjoyed that book. I'm telling you, I got went from here to Alabama and like, well, I'm here, and then like you said, once I got home, I think I forgot how many hours it is. Let me
Yeah, it's like something like 10 or 12 or something.
Seven, no, it's more than 17 hours because I remember going
17.
home,
Yes.
and once I even got there to going to visit my parents at night, once it was in my room and all that, okay, I'm putting it up, and I stayed up like 2 o'clock just listening to it, and then
Yeah.
let me go to bed, and then
Right?
I listened to it because I was supposed to listen to just half of it going there. Now I was gonna listen to the other part of it going. I listened to that whole thing my whole time there,
Yeah.
so it was really good.
You're like, yeah, that's it. The story is compelling. The characters are especially compelling. The world building is amazing. Like hands down amazing. And even though I'm not an African, I feel like I've been represented some in some way, you know. So it's all around a wonderful book. And yes, I agree that this is the reason why it's 5 stars is because you can't just pick up any YA book, which I pick up some YA romances every now and then, and it's very much YA, right? It's very much in that headspace, and I have not been in that headspace. But this one, it transcends that headspace.
Yeah, I mean,
It speaks to more than just YA.
yeah, it speaks to a lot more than YA. And like you said, it's a little bit of a romance in it. And again, not so much because a lot of times for YA romance, it's like, dude, I'm not even this.
Yeah.
I want adult romance, not YA.
We're
But
not this angsty anymore.
yeah, we're not. But when you're reading that book, I mean, that's a part of it. That's not the whole story of
Right.
it. And so therefore, that adventure, that all that other stuff that goes with that of this book that's just like a small part of it, but it does make for a more interesting story as you, especially as you read and those characters, how complex that becomes.
'Cause
And
it
it
does,
is, and
yeah.
it grows. That the whole romance grows like they do. And I'm not saying it becomes like adult, but I mean it grows because they
Mhm.
grow, and it
Right.
grows appropriately for their age bracket.
Right, exactly. Exactly. It's very much appropriate for their age group and felt as someone who's not part of their age group, this is appropriate for me reading it and,
Hmm.
being okay with what I see and what I don't see, which is good. Well, Staci, I'm so happy you came on to talk with me about this book. As soon as I finished, I was like, I knew I needed somebody to talk with about this book. And so I'm happy you came on, and I'm happy you liked it as much as I liked it too. So thank you for coming on.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
Hi. Isn't it great when you find awesome reads like the ones on this episode? If you liked getting these book recs and want more, then subscribe to Nerdy Romantics newsletter at ymnelson.com/subscribe. Nerdy Romantics newsletter not only has nerdy and romantic recs, but sneak peeks and exclusives of my spicy nerdy romances and love stories. I love talking about sci fi, superheroes, fantasy, and romance, books, movies, and shows with my friends. So share this podcast with your nerdy romantic friends. Thanks for listening and for watching.